Alright, so this section will show how to set up a piece to get ready for adding your notches and putting a seam on and also exporting out to a cutter. So here's the part that we flattened in our previous video. Um, and we can grab these pieces and move them around. That's not a problem. And try to set them up that way. Well, where does this piece go? Where does that piece go? Or we can use a tool that we call our find tool. So the find tool is this binocular tool because you're searching for something. The binoculars kind of tell you, well, this is our find tool. We'll just click this, and as we click this and we click an edge, you'll see it picks the edge to the piece that goes next to it. So we can set all these pieces up and figure out, how they're going to go together. Um, so we've kind of got things going on here, something happening over here, and these pieces. So that's kind of how this piece is going to get fit together. Looks a little bit weird here, but that's kind of how all the pieces would go together. You can do things like we can create notches on the pieces, so you can see how they get notched together, and I can show you that. So we'll just get out of that state. And we'll notch a few of these pieces here. So we have piece notching, and we also have piece tagging. So they're found here. So this is open a notch tag, and this is for a piece tag. Piece tag is simply selecting adding a tag on a piece like this. And you can't see anything right now, but when you go into the cutter, it actually show the piece tags there. So I'll go back in the shaded view. And just close this, and we'll go and show how the notch tags work. Notch tags is this A here? And we can simply go in and we would select a piece here, and I'll turn on my highlights so you can actually see. So this is toggles on our highlights for our piece tags, and this actually gives our alphabet or alphanumeric. So you can see it's behind the part here, but this is 1 and this would be 2. And as I said, this just basically toggles on our piece tags and our notch tags. There's our piece tag here, and we have another one over here. Not just an identifier for when we're cutting or when we're laying our pattern out. Next thing is, so the other thing I like to show you is I add a notch here, it automatically lines up. And I can best show that by going back into my tools. I'll select my find tool. And if we zoom into this part, we'll see that those notches match up to the vertices. So ExactFlat, what it does is take the 3D model and it can know exactly in 3D space where the piece is in 2D space. So everything matches up. Edge lengths are exact. The notches you place will be exactly where you place them. So that's kind of adding notches on a piece and adding tags to a piece. Um, let's It's quite easy. I'll do it one more time. We'll just grab our notch, add a notch, and we'll put a notch here. And as you can see, as I put a notch there, it adds it there. I'll put one more here. So I'll put it here. You can see as I highlight this edge, you know there's a notch here because it turns red. You know, if I go over here, there's no notch, but here, so right there, basically, you can see this notch and that notch. To remove a notch, you can simply just right click on your mouse. I'll bring up this notch tag dialog and I can remove notches. And how I do that is just basically simply hit remove, and you can see as I'm clicking remove, it's removing the notches. Add, right? So I've added a notch here and here. Remove, gone. So that's notching in a nutshell. Now what we're going to do is we're going to send this file out. Let's close out this. We'll zoom out. So here's our piece. And I'm just going to move these pieces a little bit. And the reason for that, I'm going to create a DXF file for a cutter. And I want to show how that looks in a DXF. And I want this kind of all pull out. So get a good look at our seams and how things are going to work. So seams are added also here in our options. So if I go open the ExactFlat options dialog box here, which is that sprocket, and I go down here and I take a look at settings. So I'm in ExactFlat settings. I can see here that I have a DXF seam allowance of 1/2 inch. I can change that to 1 inch just by typing in 1. I can change that to 3/4 of an inch. Anything I want. I just type it in here. The DXF text size is 2 units. So we're in Rhino scale, so whatever you brought the file in or whatever you created, inches or millimeters, it's actually going to use that unit. In this case, I'm set up for inches, so the seam allowance is going to be 3/4 of an inch. Just hit OK here, and we're simply going to export out the file. So we do not use the save as DXF. If you do that, you're not going to save any of the information that ExactFlat's created. It won't save the notches, won't save the piece tags, and it won't add seam allowance. You want to use the ExactFlat DXF export. And I'm just going to go here. I have a pretty messy desktop, but I'll put test DXF. And we'll open up another instance of, or actually we could just go in here, test DXF. We'll open that up, and here you can see all the pieces and how they show up. In our layers, we have a cut layer, a grain layer, a notch tag layer, because we added the notch tags, piece layer, and a seam. And if I zoom into one of these pieces where we added notches, you can see the notch, V notch here, along with the number, numeric number 5. And over here we have notch number 4. This is our seam allowance right along here. And this white line would be our grain line for the grain direction of the part. And over here where we added a notch tag, we have new piece tag 0. So that's, in a nutshell, basically shows how all this works. Again, here's our DXF file that would be going out to our cutter or our plotter. In the next video, I'll be showing some of our cutting tools. I'll also be showing how you can take this part that I've created separately and join pieces.